On his land, a guy discovers a gold mine. He starts solving secrets, but when he comes to the end of it all, he is forced to depart. All of us hope to purchase our ideal home someday, but when a guy did so, he received more than he bargained for. Christopher discovered something that drastically altered his life while taking a stroll around his new home. Taken aback, he looked into the intriguing discovery more. He had no idea that after stepping through the enigmatic tunnel, he would never return to his previous existence. Despite being told not to by a police officer and a real estate agent, he persisted with his research. Christopher realized he had to leave his house and never return when his research came to a finish and all the proof was in front of him. However, what was it that he discovered to be so horrible that he had to give up the home of his dreams? Christopher walked toward the enigmatic object he had seen, still struggling to emerge from the daze in which he found himself. Even though it was little and dark, it appeared to be concealing. "Maybe it's just another tree, an older, smaller, and darker one," he said. But when he approached, he saw right once that he was terribly mistaken. He was so excited and a bit scared that he didn't pay attention to where his feet were going. Christopher staggered and went down 3 feet. Shaking himself off, coated in dirt and leaves and dumbfounded by his fall, he gazed straight ahead. The enigma he had seen from afar was now revealed. However, it isn't possible, is it? He was baffled. On his own land, he had just found a mine that appeared to be quite ancient and abandoned. He looked more closely. What may lie within this impressive building? It was far too dark to see inside the mine, but it appeared to be covered in moss on the exterior. Christopher remembers, "Nobody ever informed us that the land had a lot of mines on it when we acquired the property. That was all. We had simply happened across the gold mine one day. I nearly passed out with excitement when I first saw it. Subterranean railroads and Indiana Jones were all I could think of." He hurried back to his house, eager for his journey to start, and grabbed a flashlight so he could see everything this mystery would reveal. He had no idea that this would turn out to be the worst choice of his life. With the flashlight in hand, he reached the mine's entrance. He entered the mine while holding his breath and was greeted with sparkling fragments embedded in the walls. Now what had he discovered? The ancient, moist walls felt like they were about to collapse on top of him. As his footsteps resounded, he couldn't help but notice how much earth was bearing down on top of him. In case he wanted to stay for a while, he packed a torch and 3 extra batteries. He saw it as he got closer to the walls, but he was unable to identify the strange shine inside the stones. He remembers saying, "What if this was gold?" in jest. However, as soon as he looked down and saw something that would shortly alter this mission, the notion quickly fled his mind. The mine was wet and chilly, no matter what the outside weather was. He saw right away that his footprint had left a 4-inch hole in the ground. The water puddles appeared to be flowing and showed no signs of stagnation, suggesting that water was pouring in from someplace. He nonetheless let out a sigh. He knew this was encouraging since disturbed, stagnant pools of water in abandoned mines might discharge hazardous gases. The more movement in the water, the less likely it is to become disgusting. With his flashlight aimed directly ahead, he peered forward but was unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel. There was someone or something present. Sounds seemed to reverberate from behind him in the tube. He followed the sounds, intrigued. He had no idea how big of a mistake this was. Inside the tube, Christopher was almost 150 feet away. When he turned around, the light shining from the doorway greeted him. He was unable to comprehend what he was witnessing. There was a swing in one of the chains. He was being observed by someone. He needed to leave that place. Someone needed to be called, but who? When he yells, "Who's there?" his own echo answers him. This time, the noises of machinery and ancient metal pieces coming into action shrieked louder. He was aware of what he had just entered. While searching for a new place to live, Christopher came across a mine. He informed the estate that it had several mining sites when he showed his real estate agent. The lights in his kitchen flickered after he had called his agency. He tried to flick the switch again to get the electricity back on, but it would not work. Then he went to the circuit breaker to switch it back on after seeing the temperature had decreased. The room was considerably cooler than when he had left it in the morning, much to his surprise. "This is not possible," he exclaims. This is not possible. The light in Christopher's kitchen flickered on. He groped his way over to the kitchen, where the switch was, and started to flip it up and down. The air had cooled considerably, causing his breath to seem like a cloud of fog in front of him. It must be bad wiring, he reasoned to himself, yet the uneasiness persisted throughout his entire body. His doorbell rang as soon as he returned upstairs to grab a drink of water and calm himself. This time, what may it be? When Christopher went to switch on the electricity again, he was surprised to see his front doorbell ringing. With terrifying eyes, Mr. Rudolph started telling Christopher that the mine was, in fact, a gold mine, much to his own amazement. Upon examining the walls, he noticed that the gold remained unaltered in the stone, indicating that the miners had not completed their work and had left the mine. Christopher was determined to find the truth. His sole question was, what happened there that all the gold went untouched? Certainly something terrible, but why? Rudolph went on to say that although he had never heard of any particular gold mines in the region, there had been a lot of local rumors about miners and mines since the turn of the century. Two possibilities raced through his head as he worked up the guts to explore the mine further. Either there was gold there, or it was haunted. He took precautions, carrying a torch and extra batteries in his pocket. He was walking along the path, not inside. As he moved more and farther from the entryway, darkness engulfed him. The last time Christopher was stuck in a mine, he resolved to walk all the way to the finish to find the answers he was looking for. But what he saw at the beginning turned him around. The hideaway was illuminated by his flashlight as he looked at several white scuffs on the walls. He could clearly see the vertical lines, 4 at a time, where the walls had been scraped. The scratches must have been done by fingers, he believed. Even though the scratches were very minor, they left an imprint on the cement. However, while he considered that query, he noticed something else that would trouble him always. He observed ruined furniture and a ton of stuff crammed together. However, that was nonsensical. Who would just go without taking anything with them? Christopher felt a tremendous pressure in his chest. Reaching out, he found the wall outside the chamber to be colder and rougher than the interior walls. Christopher's sense that something wasn't quite right in the mine persisted. He collapsed to the ground, clutching his chest once he was out. Even the sound of his footsteps was muffled by the silence of the atmosphere. Seeking the truth of what was truly going on, he raced as if it had never happened before. When Christopher searched for haunted mines on Google, the first result that came up was, "You have to face it if you want to get rid of the paranormal activity in the mine." Could he really? Could he turn around and make whatever this is go away? To find out, there was only one option. A gold mine would have seemed unreal and unreal. That's a gold mine. A gold mine. Christopher poses this question to himself. What's happening in that mine? The familiar sound is that of metal whispering and the chill of the air on his face. However, he soon heard the metallic sound once more. His body came to a sudden stop as his feet led the way through the tunnel's darkness. He could hear the sound so near that it started to hurt and ring in his ears. The metal noise had grown into a deafening storm of metal clunking against metal. Christopher appeared to be holding his head in his hands indefinitely. All of a sudden, nothing continued. He looked up when the sound became muffled. More than the noise, the quiet filled his body with terror, and then he caught sight of it. The chains hanging from the tunnel's granite ceiling began to swing in time, almost if they were dancing. He was so engrossed in what he was seeing that he was unable to even register the sound of the swooshing water. His pupils narrowed a bit, and he saw it, a tumbling wave of water heading straight for him. Christopher thought, "I must be going crazy," when the sound of flowing water replaced the previously brittle quiet. His mind is racing, pulling himself together. He sprints for the light, the entrance, his body screaming for air. Now what could he do? Whatever was there was too much for him to handle. Christopher stared back, puzzled, as he dashed out of the mine into what he thought was salvation. There was not a single drop of water at the entrance, not even puddles. All he could see were his frenzied footsteps. He started walking back to the home. He understood that he couldn't continue living this way, and that he needed to contact someone who could assist him with the paranormal activity. He made his way through the pitch-black woods until he could see his kitchen's lights. Was he leaving them on? Perhaps there was a person present. When he opened the door, his house seemed so lonely and deserted. He must have left the lights on earlier because no one had been there. He shuffled through his kitchen, thinking about that day, and couldn't shake the memories. Was it everything that happened? He opened his computer and sat motionless in his study chair, thinking, would he truly carry out this action? Although he had never been a believer in ghosts, hauntings, or paranormal activity, he was unable to explain everything that had transpired that day. He launched his search engine once more and started typing. The computer's engine made a loud whirling sound, and then all of a sudden it went dark, as though it had just died. "What could possibly go wrong next?" he said, staring there in shock at the dark screen. Tears welled up in Christopher's eyes. He had no idea that his trip would not finish here. Christopher was psychologically and physically exhausted. He was exhausted from the day. He clasped his hands over his face and felt something gently tug at him. Something tugged abruptly at his feet. It seemed to him like a magnet tugging toward metal when he discovered it. He staggered back and fell as a result. That's when he decided he had to contact for assistance and leave the area as quickly as possible. All of this could probably be explained. He was aware that many occurrences of paranormal activity had been caused by poisonous gases, or perhaps he had been unaware that the mine's water was stagnant rather than flowing. There had to be something, no matter what it was. He hopped in his car and headed to the closest coffee shop. He instantly became concerned that this too might break and opened up his phone's search engine while placing his order for a double espresso. In the box, he entered, "Best parapsychologist near me." Startled, he discovered that his search had turned up two distinct locations that were rather close to one another. He hopped in his car and drove to the address that Google Maps had sent him to. Standing in front of him was a purple placard that said, "Tarot readings. Please, God." Though he was still in shock over all that had transpired that day, he knew that if he didn't know what he was really dealing with, he wouldn't be able to sleep well.